Hello there, how nice to see you. My name is Aston and I'm an artist, and today I am going to be taking you on a tour of my recently completed sketchbook. I started this in January of this year and I just finished it maybe last week, which is really exciting for me because historically sometimes it's taken me like 10, 12 years to fill a sketchbook. So yeah, I'm pleased that I've already filled one in this time. This is a Stillman and Byrne Nova series with the tri-tone paper. So there's tan tone and gray and black. And I loved using the sketchbook. I think overall it's pretty good for mixed media in general. It doesn't love a lot of wet water. Paint is okay if it's on the thicker side, like thick layers of gouache. This does okay, but anything too watery and the paper will pill, or maybe once or twice I went like right through the right through the page. But overall, I do really like this sketchbook. I would recommend it if you're into mixed media, which I am. It was really good for pencil, pen, color pencil, marker, Posca pen, and I did use oil pastels, soft pastels, and I did use some paint in here. But in this particular sketchbook, the thicker, the better. So yeah, let's take a look inside my sketchbook. And I know already, I do know this, I'm not going to show you every page of my sketchbook. And I think that's okay, because I'm not proud of every page, and I don't think every page is worth sharing. I really use my sketchbook as a place to experiment, to play, sometimes just to test out new materials. And yeah, sometimes things come out great in a sketchbook, and sometimes they don't. And I don't have to show you those things that I'm not proud of or that I don't think are valuable to share. And that is my prerogative. So yeah, it feels pretty vulnerable to start sharing my art here on the internet. And yeah, so it probably only might look more like a half sketchbook tour. But hey, if you're showing art or anything else on the internet, show as much as you want, and you don't have to show it all. So just saying that up front, letting you know. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you really enjoy. Hi, okay, so let's jump into this sketchbook. Started in January of 2025. Okay, already, the first thing I'm showing you is not perfect and perhaps is a little embarrassing in one part. But I'll tell you what I did to kind of remedy that and reclaim what I really liked about this spread. So I think at this point, pan pastels were pretty new to me. I just picked up a couple loose pans to see what I think of them and how they work with other materials on top or underneath. So I just kind of made this giant light blue wash across both pages, and I painted on top of it, I think with Gansai Tambi. And I even did, okay, so the blue background is pan pastel, and some of the green in the trees also is pan pastel. As you can see, a little bit of a forest scene. And on this side, I have a deer, and I love this deer. I was experimenting. This is also pan pastel. I think I was putting paint on top of the pan pastel, and I had already drawn the deer, So I'm trying to fill in like the ground around the deer, but not wanting to screw up the deer, which I had done already. But I don't care for this. I don't care for this little strange line. But the rest of it, I did really like. This deer is mostly made with Prismacolor pencil and Derwent drawing pencil. Okay, so right, not crazy about this, but there's a lot of other things that I really love. I even kind of love these little scraggly trees in the very background. I think I was just kind of playing around with these materials. There might be a layer of Faber-Castell brush pen underneath the color pencil. I'm not quite sure. In this sketchbook a lot, usually I wrote notes to myself about what materials I was using, but I digress. So circling back, the way that I was able to save this into insert photo here, I either scanned it into Procreate, or I just took a photo because of the pan pastel could smudge, and then I just worked around with it in Procreate and was able to clean it up and make some changes, as you can see. And I really liked the result of painting in Procreate on top of analog work that I had done in my sketchbook. And actually another time later on in the sketchbook, I do the same thing where there was a spread that I really liked and I put it into Procreate. So I do recommend that. It's definitely a way to clean up something if you screw it up, which is totally fine, because this all is a learning process. Okay, this is not much. I think these Posca pens were really brand new to me at the time, so I'm just sort of seeing how they lay down. I've been really into these more tubular shaped clouds that come from Asian traditional art. So I just sort of laid down a couple shapes and am going on top of them with different materials to see, you know, what might look good, what does not. Let's see the note I wrote to myself. Small study, what kind of base? Posca, good for pen and Sharpie, okay for Prismacolor. Yeah, I had never used pan pastel or Posca paint before this sketchbook, or Derwent drawing pencil, or Holbein traditional gouache and Holbein acrylic gouache. So a lot of new firsts in this sketchbook. So I have a collection of art supplies that I've had some for many years. So I was really just going through my entire collection and seeing what still works and what is waterproof. So I'm just kind of writing everything down that I'm testing, what it is it water soluble or not? I think overall I was pretty disappointed because a lot of things that I thought maybe would not smudge with water definitely did. But hey, that's what this weird page is for, where you can see clearly. I love a Pentel sign pen, but definitely unless you want it to bleed, you know, don't put water over it. So this was one of those just helpful materials test. And as I said at the top, these are all my old pens. And considering some of them are really old, like at least 15-ish years old, you know, some of them are still going just fine. And maybe we will pack it away soon. Oh, this is great if you're, using pastel or pan pastel or oil pastel and you don't set it in your sketchbook. Definitely put a buffer piece of paper in between. This is just a piece of newsprint. Okay. More pen tests. I have an old, over 15 years old set of Prismacolor, I think alcohol markers that my mom gave to me at least 15 years ago. And I think I was really amazed how some of them are still really good. I wrote a note, okay, and blown away. My mom gave me these as a gift. Can't even say when, 2010-ish. Out of 24 markers, only 3 must go. Oh, then I wrote down the numbers of the ones that needed to go. Wow, really want to get using them again. And I had an old Faber-Castell brush tip pen, and yeah, same vintage as previous page. Most of them were fine too, except for a couple. And some Stadler, what do you say? Fine liners. I want to use marker more. I'm going to say that I didn't in this sketchbook overall, but seeing these notes that I left to myself months ago is a reminder that I do want to use marker more. And most of them were keepable. So this is another set of Stadler. Tri plus marker. These ones are a little bit thicker, and the good ones are still good. Might try. Might try to like shave the end of the marker a little bit to see if that does anything. I have always been really into Ivan Earl. Sleeping Beauty is my favorite Disney animated film. And this winter I went on a deep dive, an Ivan Earl deep dive, to see what his other work looked like, because I really only knew Sleeping Beauty. So I just kind of started falling down a beautiful Ivan Earl rabbit hole, and I was just obsessed with his trees. So these are super quick trees. I'm really just looking at his work for reference and trying to kind of figure out the shapes. So this, I believe, is a Gansai Tambi light wash with a Posca pen on top. I do really like this spread. I'm going through a major fox inspiration time. I'm just obsessed with foxes. So I just practiced drawing a bunch on this side, and these are the materials I used. Some of my Faber-Castell brush pens. Fox Study I enjoyed. And I used these Derwent drawing pencils on top. And on the other side, I think this is the middle of winter, and I was going for maybe a fox in the snow. Where do you go? Inspiration. I do like this tree. I like the shape, and I also like what's happening with the colors. So this is, I think I meant to scan this and into Procreate and do something further with it, which I have not done yet. More Ivan Earl trees atop a Gansai Tambi wash. Same thing here. I'm just trying to look at the shape of his trees and trying to crudely figure out what he's doing there. So Posca pen and Faber-Castell brush marker and Derwent drawing pencil, Ivan Earl tree study. All materials went down super smooth on top of a light Gansai Tambi wash. If you make it too thick and you want to work on top of it, in my experience, if the Gansai Tambi is too thick, it will become like kind of plasticky on the top, and it's hard to get other materials then on top of it. But as a light background, it works great. Some more Ivan Earl trees. And Not my favorite. I only like the green one. But he has kind of some of these pastel colored trees or landscapes that aren't, that are more creative than the natural world. So I think I'm also just testing out some materials. Let's see. Another try at Ivan Earl trees. Background is all Ganzai-tambi, including white. Leaves silhouette painted with Ganzai-tambi mixed with Holbein regular, traditional. White tube gouache. Everything had a harder time covering on top of the regular tube gouache. Okay, that's good to know. Ganzai-tambi, Holbein regular, artist, traditional artist gouache. In white, Posca pen, Prismacolor. Again, not my favorite. I guess I was charmed by this green tree. More trees! That's right, you guessed it. I think these were made with an old set of water-soluble oil pastels. I think the brand is Portfolio, and they're not super high quality or anything, but you know, I used to use them a lot in the past, and I wanted to see what they would do in the sketchbook. I'm going to pause here for now because I have to get ready for a painting class, actually, which I probably will film for you, let you know how that goes. And I will come back and finish this. I'll read you all of my marginal notes another time. Welcome back. I have returned to finish this sketchbook tour. So this is another page of Ivan Earl inspired trees. These I made with Portfolio water-soluble oil pastels. It's an ancient set. Let me know if you had or have a set of Portfolio water-soluble oil pastels. They take forever to set. Too much water for the paper here. More Ivan Earl trees. The base is Ganzai-tambi mixed with Holbein acrylic white gouache. Interesting. Derwent drawing pencils do not like to be on top of Portfolio oil pastels. There's one shade of green that I thought would be the ugliest, I think, in the Portfolio oil pastels. I like that I thought one green in the Portfolio oil pastels I thought one green would be the ugliest, but it is lovely. I like the watercolor pencils for quick color, direct wet application of Derwent watercolor pencils. Derwent drawing pencils for bark. Drawing pencils do not like to be on top of the water-soluble oil pastels. I wonder which green I was talking about, but I think maybe I'll find the set another time. This video is already quite long, and we're not even halfway through. Okay. This is a good test for how much liquid the paper can take. More than 3 wet materials is too much for this paper. I don't even think I've talked about yet the 3 tones of paper. There's the gray tone, the black tone, and the tan tone, and I had a lot of experience using tan toned paper before, but I loved the gray tone and also the black. So if anyone has good recommendations for me about toned paper, either gray, black, or tan, that can take a lot of liquid, please let me know. Okay, this is another page of Ivan Earl inspired trees. Can we layer Ganzai-tambi atop a Ganzai-tambi base wash? Question mark. Went through the other side, too much liquid. More Ivan-esque trees. Ganzai-tambi dries fast, and I really like that about it. This is Ganzai-tambi plus Derwent drawing pencils, a match made in heaven. Hey, look at that. So this looks like, I think I put down the tree bark with pencil, and then maybe I started with just painting underneath as kind of the shape for the leaves, and then drawing on top of it. That's cool how that turned out. I don't mind this. I don't mind this spread. Okay, this is a set of, looks like Amos Colorix 3-in-1 crayon, pastel, and watercolor. It's a very old set. Amos Korea Colorix 3-in-1 crayons. So I swatched them all. There are 6 shades, dry, with friction, and then with water over the top. These are Prismacolor art sticks, which seem to be giant woodless color pencils. Old set again. It's like a big Prismacolor, kind of more like holding a crayon, but it's a just giant color pencil lead. I really like the white. It's an old set. So now we move into the black toned paper. Again, I put a piece of newsprint because I'm swatching some very old sets over here of soft pastels that I just had in my collection. Some of them I think I didn't even buy initially. I don't use soft pastels super often. I'm just experimenting recently with using them more, but I think one of the oldest sets, which is a Conte, pardon my French pronunciation, Conte Paris 24 soft pastel set. This is very old. I think I didn't even buy these. They belong to maybe someone in my family years and years and years ago. I'm not sure how they came into my collection, but I thought they were really pretty here and so vibrant, and you can really get a big color payoff. And then I also had a Prismacolor set of new pastels, 24. I don't know if they make these anymore actually, but maybe they do. It's another set of soft pastels. I thought both of these look awesome against the black paper. This I really like. This is the other spread from the sketchbook that I wound up scanning into Procreate and sort of making a more finished work over there. And not that I think it's the greatest, I just like the composition overall. And I think I changed things that I don't like about this in Procreate, and I was able to make something over there that I do really like. I do really like this red crane. I love this bird. I have a tattoo inspired by this beautiful, graceful, majestic bird. So I think I did this with white gouache, and I think it's Holbein traditional white gouache. And I learned that pen doesn't go over super great on top of it. But it's not that important because I do really like how this came out. Especially, I like the head and the eye and the beak. Again, I made some of those tubular clouds trying to figure that out. And I think I painted over top of them, and I don't think those are particularly successful. And then I know that this paint is the Fine Tech. I think it's a watercolor, like metallic watercolor. Those are the ones, I walked by them in the art supply store and I couldn't resist. They have those beautiful like folds in the pin. It almost looks like fabric, and I thought they were so striking when I walked by them. I had to try them out, and so I think I got a 12 set. And they're absolutely beautiful. I bought them on sale when Blick was having their winter paint sale. So I think I'm just trying them out. Like, I haven't used them in the sketchbook prior to now. But I know there are also a couple metallics in the Gansai Tambi set that I have. Anyway, these are definitely Fine Tech. And I do really like this, and I will insert photo here. Of how I was able to make improvements by scanning my sketchbook into Procreate. So yeah, this is traditional gouache. I think these clouds underneath are traditional gouache with the Fine Tech on top, which actually didn't go so well. And then I think these are Posca pen. The white over here is a white Posca pen, I think. Okay, over here I was just swatching some paint on the black paper to see how it goes. So these are all from my set of Fine Tech. And this is the black, which is such a just beautiful flat black, but it feels more dimensional than other black watercolor that I have. You can get these actually, you can make them super opaque, and I think they just look absolutely beautiful here on this page. And I actually scanned this page into Procreate as well, and I used some of the swatches actually I took color from the swatches in Procreate. I think using the clone tool is how I was able to use the swatch. So yeah, I'm just testing materials here. These are all Gansai Tambi from a set that I have. I forget if it's 24 or 36. My mother gave it to me as a holiday gift a couple of years ago, but I only just started using it in the last year. So I think even the matte ones look really cool on this black paper, and these are the Gansai Tambi metallics. Let's see, skipped ahead to black paper. First page, Gansai Tambi. This page, Fine Tech Pearlescent. I put a heart. They look great. And below, Posca pens. Amazed how this paper picks up all of these and how clear this pencil shows up as well. Previous page, V7 pen goes well on top of regular gouache. Does it? I'm not sure. Also, Posca pen on top of gouache top was cool. I don't know if I agree looking back. I'll keep you posted on that one. So now I'm swatching my Derwent drawing pencils on this black paper. Gorgeous. And my Prismacolor set of 36 pencils also looked beautiful. And this started out as sometimes, well, most of the time, if I'm making a painting with acrylic gouache and my painting is finished, or I'm finished working on it for now, I don't like to waste the paint. And if acrylic gouache dries up, you can't really reuse it. So sometimes I'll just put the paint on my sketchbook and really not know what is going to come of it, but just not to waste the paint. So I think that's what I did here. And then later on, much later on, I came back with some color pencils and just sort of maybe went over shapes that existed from when I put the paint down. And I think over here, I just went over with pencil on top and made a little mountain inspired by what the paintbrush had already done. Not much, just that is something I like to do with leftover acrylic gouache paint, because sometimes you can use it as a background for something else, or you know, it's kind of like looking in a cloud and finding the shapes. Okay, I went on a big, clearly Fine Tech painting extravaganza because I couldn't believe how beautiful and opaque these came out on the black paper. I think over here I did paint, I filled in the black paper with the black Fine Tech paint, which is, I think it's a non-metallic, but it is a really deep black, and it's different, I think, to other watercolor black paint. So I really am I think this is just the fun of using these paints, and just seeing how gorgeous they turn out on this black paper. I think I was really surprised by the opacity, and so I made a couple of paintings like this on the black paper in the sketchbook. It just was fun. It's fun to do. Here we have another one, and in this one I believe I did not fill in these negative spaces with the Finetec black. Let's see if there's like a huge difference. I think both are cool. I think the black paper is lovely enough to just leave on its own, but I'm just trying stuff out really, and these paints were new to me at this time, so I'm just really getting a feel for them. But I hope this is coming across. Some of them have a bit of, is this a duochrome, would you say? They definitely have a lot of dimension, I think, especially for a metallic paint. So I love doing these. I kept making these little abstract snakes, shapes, weaving in and out of each other. And I think just enjoying the materials, really. It was quite a depressing winter for me, so I would make these a lot at night to try to just enjoy myself at the end of the day. Okay, I think I'm not going to show you all these pages, but I did a bunch of just tests with oil pastels to see how this paper likes them. Nothing fancy, just sort of a more white, yellow, cream, peach on this side, and a more bright colors. I think I applied some friction to both these pages. I did not put a sheet of newsprint in between here, and I should have, because there's big transfer. In this case, I think it's kind of cool, but it can be really frustrating to have pages transfer all over each other in a sketchbook. I also could have set this with like a workable fixative, but I didn't. I think these look kind of cool. I don't remember which kind of oil pastels I used, but I don't think, sometimes I can get a much richer texture with oil pastels than I did on this paper, but again, they work fine. Okay, here is a spread that I did with a combination of oil pastels in the black negative space around the big lines that I laid out with Finetec watercolor. This is kind of cool. It's just bright and I enjoy it. And again, when I make pictures like this, it's mostly about just enjoying putting the color on the paper and spreading it around. These are just some little sort of leaf or petal-like organic shapes that I made with the Finetec paint. I think I had probably maybe had a bunch of paint already wet from doing some of these previous pages with the Finetec, and so just wanted to use some of the paint while it was still wet. Of course, these are easily reactivatable. But yeah, this is not much. Sometimes I just like to put big shapes on the page. Again, similar thing over here. This one is not as totally covered with oil pastel as the previous one that I showed you, but a similar deal. Just working with Finetec and these big snaky shapes, as I have done in previous pages, with some oil pastel in and around. I think this is my favorite spread in this whole sketchbook. This is Prismacolor pencil, and I think I did this just late on a Friday night, mostly in the dark, really. I think I had pulled maybe 8 or so color pencils from my Prismacolor roll-up pencil set. Maybe just colors that I don't use super often, or that I thought, might be kind of interesting together, and I was just doodling around, and I remember I didn't have any of the lights on. But again, this was just kind of one of those exploratory kind of spacier sessions in my sketchbook where I'm just sort of, in a really abstract way, following my own fancy, and I think really here I was playing with layering and what it looks like to have a really thick layer of color pencil versus a very, very fine layer. I think it's really cool. There's something kind of strangely mid-century about this one in particular. Reads pretty 50s or 60s to me, but I really liked just how all the colors work together. Sometimes I like maybe pulling a couple of colors at random, or you know, just selecting a really limited color palette just to see how they work together. And sometimes things that I might not necessarily have paired together, certain colors, actually really wind up looking cool. This is another one where it's quite a bummer that I have some transfer over here. So I think I might scan this also into Procreate and try to clean up some of these sort of messy transfer. This was just a nice, relaxing late night, just for myself, enjoying time in my sketchbook. I think this is maybe that same night or on another time, you know, using the same colors that I had pulled, but this is, again, a case of just putting a big shape in many layers with the material that I'm enjoying onto the page. And this is kind of another abstract, just experimenting with line and shading and opacity in the layers. And this is a bummer. Of course, you can see there's like a major transfer, and if this is a concern in your sketchbook as well, I said it earlier, but just put a piece of scrap paper or newsprint, you know, in between. But I was surprised that, like, in making a line or a mark with the colored pencil, that the pressure would transfer onto other pages. I think that really surprised me about this sketchbook. So again, something else to look out for, but I have said that overall I did really enjoy just using this sketchbook despite its limitations. I wish, you know, there wasn't transfer all over this, but it's just a sketchbook. It's not any of it is, you know, finished work of art, so it's all fine. Same thing here. Yeah, just enjoying the pleasure of the squiggles and lines on the page with the material. And over here too. Here we're getting into the tan tone, which is the last third of this sketchbook. This is a Posca pen base, and this as well. I just started using Posca, which is an acrylic paint pen. I have ones with like a really wide tip, and sometimes I'll just make a big shape and fill it in to use as like to mark out a space on the page to work within, or I'll just lay it down as a background. So I think I'm just testing here how other materials sat on top of it. And I think this is like either a watercolor pencil or a water-soluble crayon. And this is acrylic gouache on top of the Posca pen. This again was a case of I have leftover acrylic gouache and I don't want it to dry up without going onto a page. So I just opened up to this page of my sketchbook, and I think this was also done out in the living room, and it was kind of in the dark, but this is, I guess, a sort of traditional Eastern art inspired landscape, and really loose, but I do really like, especially here, I like this cloud, this watery cloud coming in front of the mountain. I like that a lot. A fun, free way to not waste paint, but this kind of looks a little bit better than I knew that it would at the time I was making it. I like this little spread. I think I've said earlier that I'm going through like a major Fox inspiration. I think maybe this was a same thing where I had leftover acrylic gouache and I used it to just cover an area, and then I later painted on top of it. Maybe this is all acrylic gouache. I wish I had left myself a note. I've been experimenting with, do I draw the shape first or and then color it in, or do I put a shape down with paint and then give more detail to it with pen or pencil afterwards? So I've been experimenting with both of those techniques, and I think in this fox's case, I just put the paint down first and then went in with a pen maybe after to. But I like the little face, and I think there's just something sweet and jolly about this little fox amongst these look like some Ivandurl inspired trees. Still haven't cracked the code, but I'll keep trying because his trees are just so gorgeous. But I do like this. I think it's a cheerful little spread. Okay, here's another just kind of abstract, more materials test. I think in this case I put down pan pastel first, just in big blocks, and then I had leftover acrylic gouache, and I wanted to see what can go on top of pan pastel. Can you put acrylic gouache on top of pan pastel? Turns out you can, and you get, kind of looks like a little flocking, like a flocked material, like on a Sylvanian family toy. You know, those toys that look furry. The flocked materials is what the sort of edges of this paint reminded me of on top of the pan pastel. You get these kind of rougher, fuzzier edges. But I still thought that the paint went down great on top of pan pastel, and it makes this cool effect. So this is the only time I tried that. I think I'll keep experimenting with that, but I do like it. I like the bold colors and shapes. Sometimes it just feels good to me to make something like that. And I think, again, it's just about something really satisfying about using the materials. And that's how I find a lot of joy in my sketchbooks. It's just enjoying the materials and not being too concerned with what I'm making with them. Here too, I had a bunch of leftover acrylic gouache, and this time I just put it all on paper, and I really like when I'm mixing color, which isn't something that I know a lot about, but I like when a color is not mixed super well and you can see all these little stripes of pigment that are unmixed, and you get these little lines. Sometimes I think that's a really cool effect, and so I think I was just enjoying swirling all the paint on my palette, all the leftover paint on my palette together, and just seeing the stripes and swirls of the unmixed paint. And it's still really satisfying to me. That's interesting. I'm gonna try to unpack more about what I like about it, but maybe it just is what it is, and it's not something that I have to explain. But yeah, there is something that I really like about not perfectly mixed paint, how you can see all the lines of each different color. This is interesting. I think I got turned around somehow, and early on when I started the sketchbook, I made this, I think, with water-soluble crayon. This is a little mushroom, and yeah, I wrote a note, not sure how or why I got turned upside down. Though this is the end of the sketchbook, I thought it was the start early on. So, not sure how that happened, but it doesn't bother me too much. It's a nice little mushroom. Not sure what I was going for over here though. It didn't come back to finish that up. Okay, I'll show you part of this. I'm working on a logo for a farm, and this was my, I guess second, but first best sketch of what the finished logo might look like. I'm definitely still speaking with the clients and refining it, but that was my first idea. The things that they told me they wanted captured in the logo are the cows, the grass, and the farm. The farm has like a really distinctive barn with this little, I'm not sure what you would call it, on top of the barn. The big bright light in the top. But I'm still working with this idea, and I'll keep you posted, and maybe I'll share the final logo with you. And this is after I had swatched my set of Turner acrylic wash Japanesque, my 21 color set. I started painting this little scene from a photo that I took on my travels to Japan from Kenninji Temple. And I've painted over this several times. I don't think it's, the greatest work of art ever, but I do enjoy it. I couldn't quite get it right. And also, I think at the time I had drawn a sketch first, and the time I started coloring it in, the paint from my swatching video was already mostly dried, so I just had this very light wash of color initially. And then I same thing, I had leftover paint from another non-Turner Japanesque painting project, and I was like, oh, well, I should go back and finish that picture, but I didn't really like what I did. I think the rocks, are too dark, so I stopped, and then I came back around later on when I was working with Turner Japanesque, just on a page in another sketchbook. And I came back around to this, and this is the end result. I think it's fine, it's kind of cute. I will keep working from these photos of Kenninji Temple. I don't think it necessarily does the beauty of the place justice. As a start for wanting to paint this beautiful place, I think it's fine. There is something that I like about it. And I did go over the top of the paint with Posca pen, and also I think Derwent drawing pencil and Prismacolor also, maybe in the leaves of the tree. Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'll keep working because this place was so beautiful. I would like to keep making pictures of it. This is another case of just putting leftover paint from a acrylic wash palette into my sketchbook. Yeah, I like to do these lines and sort of big organic shapes sometimes, but this one came out really cool. The other side of the page I don't think is really worth sharing, but I really like the colors, and it made me think automatically of an underwater sort of seaweed vibe, and that's what I like about this. So maybe at some point I'll draw a little mermaid and paste her right in there. I think that's what could go in there, but I like the colors, and I like what they're doing together. Okay, so wrapping it up, I think I made some notes to myself at the end of the sketchbook. Overall, great sketchbook experience, and fastest I've ever filled a sketchbook. I loved the tone paper, all 3 tones. I loved working with them all. This paper loves gouache, pan pastel, soft pastel, Prismacolor pencil, Derwent drawing pencil, Posca pen, Gansai Tambi. Although with Gansai Tambi, you do get a lot of shine if you make super thick layers. That is probably more about that paint than this paper. Paper does not love lots of water, hard pressure like from a pencil. Lots of water will pill or break through the paper. If you have any recommendations for a sketchbook that I might like based on my experience of this one, or if there's any toned mixed media paper that you can recommend to me, please let me know. A paper that will work with the above materials and can take a lot of water. And I don't love a stark white paper. I really prefer off-white or toned. I learned sitting down regularly and working here can feel very relaxing, like at the end of the day. I'm better at drawing animals and the natural world than people. I learned a lot in this sketchbook from both successful endeavors and unsuccessful. Mostly it just feels good to fill a whole sketchbook. And there you have it, my first sketchbook of 2025. The Stillman and Byrne Nova series. Overall, a great sketchbook experience. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I've given you a tour of what was inside this sketchbook and my experience of using it and of using different materials within it. And please let me know how you enjoyed this video, and if you would like to see more from me, what you would like to see. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.